Okay, are we ready to go? All right. Uh, I tend to talk soft, so just let me know if everybody can hear me, okay? Okay, perfect. I'll use my loud voice here. Can you hear me back there, okay? Okay. Okay, great. Before I start, I just want to make just take a moment. I've been in the neighborhood for my entire life. My wife and I moved over to the Westmoreland neighborhood about 21 years ago, and our neighbors across the street, they were it's confusing for me at first because I would see one woman walking around, and then suddenly I'd see someone identical walking with her, and it confused my kids, but and so it was very you know s- uh, sad when we got the news that Jan Anderson passed away, and so she was a very good neighbor for 21 years, and her sister as well. So I just wanted to, since I'm here, I know how much the church meant to her, and so I just wanted to give my condolences to the congregation. Yeah. And thank you for inviting me back. I consider that I must have been doing something right the last time I was here. When you invited me, boy, that was over probably almost 3 years ago. I had no idea what I was doing. And I can safely report that here I am 3 years later, and I still really don't have a clue what I'm doing. But I'm learning, and that's kind of why I'm here. And I have a really good district, and I've had it, uh, and I'm very thankful that people gave me the opportunity I ran again, and the voters decided to allow me to stay here as your alder. So you're stuck with me for at least 2 more years. Um, when I say I'm still learning, I've benefited from a lot of past alders, past mayors, city staff have been, took a lot of time to kind of invest in me there and help educate me. One of the ways that I kind of, when I don't know something, I not only go to people who are experts, but I also take the opportunity to read books. Uh, by introduction, my day job is at the University of Wisconsin Madison campus. I've been there for about over 30 years now, and I started off producing television lecture courses on Wisconsin Public Television. Then I started when Al Gore discovered the internet back in '93 or so. I immediately took my computer and turned it into a web server and started putting the TV courses and the content online, and ended up making one of the early online courses. And so I've been engaged in distance education work, and trying to create opportunities for people to attend college who otherwise wouldn't be able to physically come in person. That work has led me to all sorts of training opportunities. The most recent one, and I was just talking to a fellow colleague with at the uh, I about over a year ago, I took on a special assignment with the Department of Corrections, and in order to work with the Department of Corrections, I needed to be on the inside. So in addition to serving as your alder and at the university, I also have a part-time appointment at Department of Corrections where I'm helping to set up education opportunities for people who are incarcerated to earn college degrees. And yeah, and it's been a very rewarding opportunity. So yeah, well, thank you. That's well, let me start off. I'm going to kind of give an overview of kind of what I've been doing over the last couple of years, and then I'm going to leave plenty of time for some Q&A. Let's see, I got to get the. Let's see, am I getting this right? Oh, not sure. Do you want to just advance the next one? That might be faster. Okay, there we go. There's just some of my priorities. Traffic safety is one that I've been working very hard on. Nature, greenways, gardens, trees. I'm kind of become known as the tree tree alder. I try to, I tell city staff, I don't, you don't have to tell me when you plant a tree, but you need to tell me when you're going to cut down a tree. So I'm very focused on that. Also housing, and I've, we have a community that's very desirable. People want to live here, and so I've also been looking at opportunities for new housing in our district. If we can go to the next one. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yep. Perfect. Um, yeah, so I said books. That's something that I do. I left a handout there, so if anybody's available to come on Wednesday, you're all invited to the District 11 Book Club. I'm doing a book talk on Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, and I have a number of guests who are going to be joining me to talk about the look back at the book, and also some of the education, some of the government programs that grew out of the advocacy work that Rachel Carson did, and also some of the concerns that the city has with cuts that are happening that are going on in Washington. So we're going to have a kind of a retrospective look back at how a book was very instrumental in creating good policy, and maybe have a discussion on what happens when politicians make bad policy decisions. Um, what I kind of I've been doing the District 11 Book Club for now, boy, almost 3 years, and what it does for me is an opportunity to kind of engage with constituents on issues that I'm wrestling with, and the books that I'm reading, and conversations I have with city staff. And really, what I see is as books are really a powerful way to kind of uh, I see it as a powerful tool for political persuasion and public engagement. And I think books have always had that role in our society. It's just when they work well, people don't oftentimes see it. And I've taken time over the years. I've studied how authors have deliberately used books as a way to to change public perception, and to encourage politicians to vote a certain way. And I've also studied how politicians do the same thing. So I am now kind of practicing what I was studying before. So that's what kind of led to the idea of the book club. Plus, I kept being told I should do office hours with constituents. So now if people want to come and hang out and talk with me, I kind of ask them to do the reading first. So these are some of the books that I've done over the years, and some ones that are going to be new. Again, the district, I'm doing the Silent Spring next week. I'm going to be at some point doing the 15-minute city. It's a book that I'm currently reading right now, and so I'll talk about that if we have time. So the first one, this is a book that we just did recently on the art of community, and this is something I wanted to kind of go through because we have a community that's very vibrant. It's one it you know, and I went through and read the book. It's the seven principles of belonging, and so it has kind of takes the reader through the different steps of what makes a good community. And then it has at the end for community leaders kind of a workbook and how you can kind of discuss this and engage with the community. So I did a book club on this. I'm going to be kind of doing some additional discussion about that. If you tune into WORT on April 21st at 1 o'clock, I've been asked to host one of the book beat segments. So WRT is giving me an hour on the radio, unscripted. So we'll see what happens here with live too. So but the way the author kind of describes it is describing a community as a group of individuals who share a mutual concern for one another's welfare. And that, I think, is really what we see in District 11. That's what I hear as a politician when I ask people what they want, what they need. Um, I'm oftentimes told they want the ability to have public spaces, more funding for like our library. They want parks, but then they also want to have parks that have playground equipment that's accessible to all people. And so the image here on the bottom is a dedication ceremony for the Jeff Erlanger Accessible Playground over in Rennebaum Park. And I got a chance to be there for the dedication, and it was quite an honor because I grew up here in the area, just a couple doors away from Jeff Erlanger, and he was somebody who was very active in politics. Not when I knew him as a kid. He was a couple years younger than me, um, but I had a lot of really good memories with him. He was very good in math, and I probably would not have gotten through math if he wasn't helping tutor me when I was back in middle school, high school. So his parents were there. I got to chance to reconnect, and that's some of the benefits of why I keep stepping up to do this job. It's that connection to the community. Um, Traffic, and I could go on about community, but tune into WRT and you can listen some more there. Um, Traffic safety is another one. I started talking about that from day one when I was being interviewed for being the District 11 Midtown replacement. Um, I was I got a notification saying, hey, we have an opening. The previous alder was stepping down. I went in for a 3-hour interview. At the end of the interview, there's some other people who are also interested in the position, and then they said, "You have the job." Uh, and then I had about 4, 5 days to prepare to be on the Common Council, and the first thing I voted on was bus redesign. So I had probably one of the shortest run-ups from knowing nothing about city politics to suddenly sitting on the board and voting on a pretty large topic. But one of the things I said during my interview is a concern I have for the district is traffic safety. We have a we have in a neighborhood, neighborhoods, our streets were designed uh, largely around the automobile. We have very wide boulevards. We are kind of a Cold War relic. It was wide boulevards, straight, so that if in case of there was any kind of uh, nuclear uh, disaster, we could evacuate our cities quickly. Uh, Also parking too. So we have, but as a result of having these very wide boulevards and sometimes not enough trees, people drive a little too fast. And so I've made it a very strong point to continue to keep the ability for people to drive, but also to make it safer for people to cross the street. And and also to keep the trees. Trees on our city streets do help keep down the traffic speeds. And so that's why I fought to the image here you see with me, that was from the State Journal. We were widening the bike path there, and there was discussion about cutting down almost like 75 trees, and I was like, that's not going to happen on my watch. So we got that number down to a little less. We still lost more than I'd like, but the good news is that when we were putting in the widening bike path, uh, we dug out the soil underneath and planted new trees so that the new trees that are growing now and these will be full canopy trees. So in several years from now, people will benefit from it. But we did not lose all the trees. Uh, the one down there is that's the intersection over at on Odana Road, and that's the section down there that's the Parman. The bike path is right beyond that. And people would oftentimes, there's also a way to get from Nakoma neighborhood, uh, crossing the bike path, and then they go down this cul-de-sac, Parman. But then there's no sidewalks on this side of the road, and so people would would either walk on the street to get to a sidewalk, or they would try to cross this intersection. And a lot of kids, people were driving way too fast here. So what we managed to do is, this is just a temporary solution that we put in to have a safer crosswalk, and with a bump out a bit. And this summer we'll have a permanent structure going in. This is just one example of multiple intersections that in the last 3 years I've been able to allocate funds, worked with city staff to have safer crossing. Uh, Over by the Hilldale area, we have a number of individuals who have visually impaired, and and so we have not just crosswalks there, but audible crosswalks for people. And I got a real nice email a couple of months ago from Chance's owner. Chance is a seeing eye dog. How much they appreciate the audible crosswalks, and then how a city staff member took the time to actually walk with the resident and Chance to teach how to cross the street. And so yeah, so I take traffic safety very, very, very seriously. Um, and this is an example of one of the audible spots. There's the post office there. There's also a retirement community right across from the post office. And when they were doing the resurfacing, the initial plans were to take out the stoplights and the crosswalk. And so I was able to work with city staff and allocate some funding to keep the traffic lights there, and to actually make it a even better area for people to cross. So now we have a nice, in one of the highest density areas in District 11, where there's a lot of people who are walking, taking the bus. We have now safer ways to cross the street there. This one is a little, this depending on where you are. The below here is, some people love it, some people hate it. But this is the below here is the southern section of Seago, and what we did is we put in a buffered bike lane, a lane of traffic, and then we put in parking. So, and then we have the area in the middle here, which needed to stay a median there, the green median, because we have a lot of underground rivers and culverts. So that's why we have those green spaces, and why I'm not allowed to plant trees on there, because it's very shallow, and there's a river running underneath some of these medians and the boulevards. But this has made it much safer for people to bike. I'm getting a lot of parents are very pleased with this. Some drivers are not as happy, but this is a section again where we kind of designed it around pedestrians and cyclists. There are other streets that are more our main arterial roads that are designed and will remain for automobiles. But this is an area where there are a lot of density, a lot of pedestrians. But we did keep the parking in there. Yeah, green spaces, as I mentioned before. This, I just dropped the books in here just to this is to kind of how when I'm looking at restoring spaces or keeping spaces for not just for people for parks for people to play in, but also looking at these green areas for native plants, for animals, for wildlife. This is an example of the Robin Greenway, and if you remember, a couple years ago we had that really big windstorm, and it just took down a lot of trees. What happened in our greenways were once part of our park system, and they were designed to kind of all be interconnected. And down the line, greenways, because most of our greenways are used for have kind of stormwater and have open culverts and rivers running down there. So that's how they were set aside. They're the areas of the city where you could not farm. and and you would also not want to necessarily build there unless you put the river underground. So that's why a lot of our greenways have have water running through them. But then that's why it moved to the engineering department out of parks. The problem is that over the years, because they were just seen as kind of used for stormwater, they didn't get the same attention that parks did for planting trees or removing invasive plants, trimming the trees, or making it even accessible for people to walk through. Uh, so when we had those devastating storms a couple of years ago, trees went down, and so the utility companies just came in, not just walking in there with chainsaws. They came in with big trucks and just dredged and pulled the logs out of there and just completely destroyed the greenway. And you can see some of the damage. This is damage to some of the trees. So so I got a call from residents. Again, I was only on the job for a couple of weeks, and they said, "Could you please come down and take a look at the greenway?" And I went down there and showed up, and I thought I'd be talking with maybe 3 or 4 people, and it ended up being like had be over like 30 people or more. So so I spent time meeting with them, working with city staff, and and also getting allocating some funding. So we went from a area that was completely dredged, trees down, just all native plants, uh, kind of removed because it's just all dirt, uh, to a plan what you see here. Um, I put in the book Jens Jensen. That's a book written by my father. He's a retired landscape architect here. It's kind of why I developed the interest in parks and green spaces. It is also a topic for one of our book clubs. But a lot of people who work at the city took classes from him at the UW. And so when I put in the money to 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 renovate this greenway, I got a call from a city staff member, saying Alder Tishler is, I'm a landscape architect with the city. Is there any way I could help design this greenway? And I said, I was a former student of your dad's. So yeah, Sarah Lerner is an individual right here. So I said of course. And she asked, how do you want it to look? And I just said, just design it like what Jens Jensen would like. That was my only instructions. And she came up with an absolutely brilliant plan here. And so we have we took, it's now instead of just being just a green space, lots of overgrown trees, we've kept the river running here, the ravine here, and we put in a crushed gravel path that winds through the area. So it connects to one of the streets here, and now it's a pathway that people can take through the neighborhood. The Hamilton and Van Hise Elementary School is right up here, so kids can now have a nice green space to walk through, and they left a nice big open grass area here for people who want to picnic. And we've also kept a lot of brought back all of the original stonework that were just kind of were just either the farmers had put them there, or they're just kind of there naturally. And so if you go and visit, this is the Robin Greenway just off of Mineral Point Road. It looks like it's always been there. It's kind of like Central Park. If you go to Central Park, all those stones, those are all placed there. But if you go there, it looks natural. That's the same thing that we did here with this greenway. And then we have now a volunteer group, both in the Robin Greenway, but also the South Kenosha Greenway. They come together, and city staff help provide the tools and teach them how to plant native plants, and also how to remove invasive plants. And the city provides the plants for that. So we again, this is an example of creating community. Um, so there's uh, it wasn't so much this part of District 11, but last year we had uh, they we've been doing a series of area plans in the city, and half of my district last year, this every the entire district across Midvale Boulevard was part of the West Area Plan. And again, I grew up in this area 57 years ago, so to me this is the West Side. This was in many cases the far West Side. There was not much, as people probably remember, beyond Hilldale. There was mostly it was not a lot of. I remember a lot of cornfields and as biking out to Westtown there, and I was wondering why the heck would you put a shopping mall in the middle of nowhere? And now it's of course it's not, but this was the edge of the city, and this was the area we live in was the housing solution, the housing crisis solution back in the 50s. When we did not have enough housing downtown, and this so. Uh, and again, at the time they were designing this around the automobile. More people had automobiles than they did back when the downtown areas of the city were designed. So, um, so anyhow, to prepare for the West Area Plan, seeing some of the zoning changes, some of the discussion about areas that existing structures should be rezoned. I did two book clubs, one on arbitrary lines, one on a book by a local author here, Mark Elsden, on Gone for Good, because what the city was proposing was rezoning some of our area churches, and and then when I would talk to city staff, it's like, well, church attendance is down, and we're looking into the future. Um, and I said that's not the case in District 11. We have very thriving churches, and you're doing nothing. You spent no time engaging with church members on this. Um, and so I brought in. So I started talking with area experts, learn more about it. We uh, the West Area Plan isn't perfect. I push back quite a bit. There's a lot of controversy on some of the areas farther west, out in District 9 with the Sauk Creek Greenway. Yeah, yeah. Um, I when I was working on the greenways, I was keeping it all quiet. I would actually not bring attention to it because we were having we were just quietly restoring the greenways with the community. And we did not want the same attention. City staff were very responsive, and we had a lot of success. Um, but but then again, when we do these large, we moved away from neighborhood planning, where neighborhood associations would be more involved with the kind of future thinking and planning, to doing these very large area plans. And there are similarities between District 11 and District 19, District 9, but there are also a lot of differences. And so I was getting, and again, my district was cut in half, so I have to go through this again in the future. Um, but I was saying, you're lumping these big stretches of Madison uh, together, and there are some unique characteristics of each. So I pushed back, and we delayed the West Area Plan by a couple of months. And I think in the end, and I'll give staff credit, they were far more responsive after we delayed the West Area Plan, and they started showing up, letting residents speak, unlike what I'm doing right now. I'm just talking all the time. And we ended up with it's not perfect, but it's far better than it was had we gone with the original plan. And then the one that I just couldn't wrap my head around is, why on earth would you want to even talk about rezoning the Hill Farms pool? And so, so that I said, when I saw the early draft, like, that's just going to irritate people, and which it did right on cue.
Alder,
Uh,
you asked me to tell you when it was halfway.
yeah,
So
okay, thank you. And I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go through rest and so I can give time for some Q&A. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of pressure, on City of Madison's. We're in one of the fastest growing areas, definitely the fastest growing area in the state. Um, we have it's a very desirable place to live, and we are in a neighborhood that is extremely desirable for people to want to live in. Um, Again, we're the criticism, and I've said this on the radio. I said this to newspapers. The way that Madison has been designed, and the way we think is that everything radiates out from the Capitol. We have from the isthmus. Uh, that is how that's how if you how our transport it's the benefit of this of Madison is that we are surrounded by lakes, and that kind of shapes how the city has evolved over the past almost now 175 years. Uh, but also it in that kind of that the limitations that the lakes have provided, and there actually was discussion way in the past to do a bridge across some of the lakes, which thank God that did not happen. Um, but yeah, you look at how we do our transportation, how we do our housing. So all of the thing so the isthmus is the downtown Madison. But other cities of this size now have multiple city centers. And so uh, so that is kind of that's been the push-pull tension for a long time. So I did a book club on paved paradise, which talks about parking. We're always talking about housing. We're talking about about cars and buses and transportation, but no one's really talking about parking. Where do cars have to go? Um, and really, it's the transportation, how we lay out our streets, that has driven a lot of our decisions with housing. The reason why we could expand out to the west side is that, and why we built a large West High School just down the street. That's where the trolley car ended, and it went out to the cemetery, turned around and went back. And so as the trolley went out that far, then the housing followed. Um, when you got the automobile, people started having an automobile. We expanded our roads, sewers, and then eventually we started expanding our shopping malls, and we had entire communities that were designed around the automobile. The University Hill Farms is a prime example of an entire community that was planned, with to solve the housing crisis back in the 50s. But they also built in, along with a huge population moving here, and having the ability to own a car or two, uh, the shopping malls followed. So you see example here of two shopping malls. So this is a Hilldale shopping mall, and you can see the big parking lot, and then this is just down this. I think these are both Hilldale. Yeah. Uh, but we also had just right down Sequoia Commons was originally Midvale Plaza, and so and we had a complete grocery store, vacuum store, library, um, but so what we just released a housing tracking data dashboard, so it shows all the new housing that's going up in the entire city. And I took a look at it, and in the years the past 3 years I've served as an alder, there have been 705 housing units that have been built in District 11. Now, when they say housing units, that's both apartments as well as physical homes. At the time, they were not counting ADUs. They've since updated the housing tracking software to include accessory dwelling units, or granny flats, as sometimes they're called. which we have a couple going up in our district. But 705 new units were created for people. And what the thing about that is, with all of the new uh, housing that's been built, this Sequoia Commons was built before I served in Alder. But here are examples of of one area that has been built. This is over by where Westgate used to be. We've only had one demolition in that entire time, and that demolition was here in Westmoreland, and they is to build a new house. So what we're doing is we're building on all of the parking lots where and that's that is space. And so I've said that we're now where we were parking and finding, parking homes for cars. Now we're building homes for people. And if you look at the cost, what it costs to build not just surface parking lots, but when you start to build uh, underground garages and parking structures, we probably spend more on parking our cars than we do on sheltering on unsheltered people. So um, what in all these cases, what we're seeing is developers, because we do have a desirable neighborhood, uh, people can build. You're seeing this. There's still the same number of parking there. It's just that it's being underground, or what you're seeing is parking structures like this. And there's a lot more space in our district. That's actually the benefit of our district, is that we have so much open space that can build additional housing. And I'm advocating all types of housing, not just market rate, but also I'm saying, I've just got my AARP membership. I've passed. Just turning 58 this year, but I'm starting to look ahead at senior. So I'm still young, a few, but every day I'm not feeling as much as I used to. Um, but I'm looking ahead at future housing too, and downsizing at some point. So I'm seeing, but if I'm downsizing, I want to, of course, stay in the neighborhood that I grew up in, and otherwise, I'm just going to do what a lot of people do and just stay in the house. So I'm looking at opportunities where also we can, build more housing, but also create the opportunity for people to transition into, you know, downsize, but still stay in this neighborhood and not have to find a housing way on the periphery of the city, or be forced to find housing in another city. So I'm going to stop there. I- This is a potentially a future topic. Um, a 15-minute city, it's kind of more of a European concept. It's popular and growing more popular. But this is a local map maker. He had an installation at the Sequoia Commons recently, looking at areas that based on the kind of the criteria of what is a 15-minute city, it's like a walkable city. All your amenities are within uh, either a bus transit or you could walk to it. There's only a few places in Madison that actually are a 15-minute city. Otherwise, you need a car for most of Madison. But downtown, of course, since it was designed that way. Uh, but you can see right here, part of District 11 is labeled as a 15-minute city, and this area of Madison is growing, and uh, so stay tuned for that one. It'll be and I this will be some people are gonna not probably enjoy the discussion on this one as much, but again, I like to pick books and get people thinking, and to prepare people for some of the future conversations, because I do not see the growth in Madison will be continuing, especially not only is it with all the amenities that we have here, the sense of community, but especially the IT sector. You'll be seeing more and more people who will be leaving the coast, leaving the South, coming here. The climate is working in our favor or against us by having a cooler climate, we will just see more IT here. And here I'm talking more about the technology as our servers and as our technology generates more and more heat. So I'm not going to get geek out on that. I could see a few other people in the audience here who do know technology, but that will be a future conversation. Um, well, thank you for letting me babble on for 45 minutes. I can take some
Yeah, questions?
questions. Yeah.
Oh, Andy, I think you got it. Oh,
I just want to thank you for your dedication to keeping green spaces. I grew up in your district, very close to here.
Okay.
Grew up in this church. And the beauty of this whole area is incredibly connected to the green spaces that are here. And not just manicured parks, like you were saying. And so now, for the last 4 years, I've been living on the far west side in District 9,
Okay.
where, yeah, we've had huge controversy over just maintaining a green space,
Yeah.
which you would think would just be a no-brainer. But because of what you said about the whole city planning,
Right.
it just becomes, like, well, we have to address this drainage area.
Right. And
And so, I mean, that's for a different alder to deal with, unfortunately. But again, I just want to thank you for
thank
your dedication to it.
well, thank you. Yeah, our greenways were designed. I mean, a lot of the spaces that we have, why we have greenways, is because of the Parks and Pleasure Drive Association. So people got their new cars and they wanted to drive around. They would buy the land so they could drive and park and have picnics. And so over the years they would donate that land to the city. So that's why Vilas Park exists the way that Henry Vilas and his wife dedicated that's Vilas Park because it was part of the Park and Pleasure Drive Society. Um, yeah, I won't go into more history, but I like doing the history of Madison too. I did a couple book clubs on that. Go ahead.
Yes, you brought up the issue of housing. Madison is a very unique community. Yeah, and it seems to me that housing in District 11 also is interactive with housing in the other districts around us. So I'm bringing up the issue of the research park. My wife and I live right next to the research park. I like to walk a lot, so I get to see what's going on in the research park. A lot of those buildings have empty suites or for sale or empty buildings.
Yep.
And I know that it's been brought up on the University West campus to incorporate some housing in some of those areas. Is there any talk between or discussion between the city and the research park about expanding there? Because there are vast areas that are undeveloped, maybe intentionally so, but even the developed areas have quite a few empty spots, and they've been empty for some time.
Yeah. Like I said, I disclosure, I also work at the university, so I have to be careful how I speak. I've been advocating that for a long time, not just with the research park in our district, but also research park too far out on the west side. And also, I also have to give credit and thanks to the regents and the state. There's a lot of land, not just on the Madison campus, the downtown campus, but as you point out on the research park area. What you'll be seeing not only downtown, but also out here, is the ability to, I guess, or permission to build more housing on university-owned land. And so there's if you go to the if you search it up, there's plans, especially where the down by the campus, near the hospital, to build more housing down there. Again, it's the same idea before. Is we're big empty parking lots, opportunities to build housing there. Here in the west, and only part of the research park is in District 11, but there are plans to have apartment units, especially with right along Mineral Point Road, where the bus rapid transit runs down. And also we have the Oak Hills retirement community. So there are plans to begin doing more development there. When they asked me, told me about this, they said we're gonna build housing for people who work at the research park. The first question I asked them is, are you talking about people who work in the labs or clean the labs? Like who's the housing for? And they, at the time, did not have an answer. They've since gone back and told me it'll be housing for all. And I was like, that's a good answer. But so yes, we should see a lot more opportunities for that. And I'm hoping not only do we, I also at the same breath, I want to see more housing, but I also the nice thing about walking through the research park is they also have they've kept it. It used to be big. It was the UW's farm, and then for the long time, that's where the cows were grazing, the horses are out there. So there's a lot of prairie restoration going on at the research park, and a lot of nice landscape and designs, and also water handling. That's one of the highest points in Madison, which is where we put when the UW. That's why you see all the TV stations out there. And when the UW was creating non-XM radio or Wisconsin Public Radio, that's where our TV tower. That's where our TV radio and then TV tower is. So in saying that, that's the highest point. We're in the highest point in Madison. So how we handle water runoff, stormwater runoff, and so one thing you'll see at the research park is they have a lot of prairie grasses, trees, and installing retention ponds so that we can slow down the water so it doesn't just gather speed and cause flooding in for our neighboring districts. I'm encouraged to see more of that. So more housing development. But I also say is one of the benefits that we all have. People who own a home, and especially in District 11, a lot of us have nice front yards, backyards. We have green spaces that we can relax. As we build more higher density in housing, we at the same time we also need to be thinking about building more green spaces for people who are living in apartments. And so I see the two things combination: more higher density housing, more green spaces.
Yeah, let's go across Tokay Boulevard from the research park and maybe a little bit on the bus barn or bus issue there. Are there any thoughts about what's going to happen with the old cops store and its parking lot? Are there any redevelopment plans, or have you heard anything that the city's doing to encourage that parcel to be redeveloped, as well as across Tokay Boulevard and the former bus transit point?
Right. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with. I mean, that's the former bus transit. The city was just leasing that. It'll go back to the research park. I thought it'd be nice to put turn that space into a children's park or something like that. But my artful dodge will be that's across the street, and that area is District 19. So what I'm doing,
Right.
and you can see in the West Gate, I've spent a lot of effort. I am going to encourage the Alder of District 19 to put more pressure and do something there. And I'm just going to embarrass them by having more development across the street. And so it'll be a very stark. District 11 will have a lot of housing. We just added. If you go by there right now, we just added more affordable housing, senior housing. And again, that's helping. So I said the 705 apartment units going up in District 11. You're going to be seeing probably another 300, 400 by the time I leave office. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have so many thoughts, being 90 and having lived in Madison since 1954 and remembering the gravel Midvale Street, okay? But there are so many concerns I have for the way in which Madison moves and doesn't move, and the ugly, ugly buildings that are allowed
Yeah. Yeah.
to be built, such as the corner of Tokay and Whitney Way, just as one example. And what kind, you know, my question, it's not my only question, is what kind of green space? Because they keep building more ugly buildings there.
Yeah.
So the ugliness of what's allowed to be being built, and probably cheaply, and one of our members who is an architect has indicated, because I talked to her about it, that they may not last very long. So that's one kind of thought. The other kind of thought is we're not truly building affordable housing for people who do not have the means.
Right.
That simply is not happening, despite what people say. Well, we'll have 8 units in building X, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then I want to say, I'm glad you're holding up Jens Jensen, because he actually was probably the foremost person in this country to really focus on what we call today ecology and so on.
Yep.
So that's, I mean, before Leopold, sort of, right?
Yeah, no,
Of whom we really admire. And then all these already green spaces that keep getting lost. I mean, so why is the engineering department in charge, so to speak?
Yeah.
And why is it separated from the parks? And why is most of the park maintenance needed to be done by volunteers?
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes on and on. And
I'm working, yeah, and I'm,
and then
yeah,
I mean, you have to understand, I have decades and decades, okay?
Well-
And then this whole bus thing and no monitoring of speeding and that sort of thing, posting new signs now, 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That will make no difference. So it's like, and the taxes go up and up.
you-
But other than that, thank you. And
I guess, yeah,
one book, which is an old book by Jane Jacobs. I mean, like Rachel Carson's book is a signature book.
Yeah.
But Jane Jacobs also wrote The Life and Death of Great American Cities. That's very interesting.
yeah. No,
So on and on. Thank you.
no, I appreciate you. Yeah, you just summed up my my experience and frustration on the council. So, but again, you know, if I can't, you know, I'm watching a lot of change. I'm watching a lot of uh, again, I've been here for a long time. When I can't actually, I don't have the ability to actually stop something or prevent something, what I can do is at least educate people as to why this is happening, or at least, you know, allow people to understand, and also say that this is the part that I did not like. I work, like, I question how I'm voting. I question, you know, my thought process. I'm constantly re-examining. I work with some politicians, and they just come in and they are right. This is the way it's going to be, and they basically lecture to me. They lecture to their constituents, and I'm taking the tact where I am trying to engage, educate, learn from, and just show that this is not the way it has to be, and we do not have to be just like insert, you know, the city where somebody just moved from. Madison has its own unique history, its culture. Why it's such a desirable place to live here is the contributions that, you know, that you and others have made. We've made this a desirable place to live, and we don't need to just change on the whim because somebody liked the way Seattle looked, or Portland, or at any other city. You know, I like this. I've traveled some of these places, great, but it may work there, but it may not work here. So, so now I'm showing my kind of my age, but also I'm not planning on going anywhere. I'll be here for, if all goes well, another 30 years. So if not an alder, then I will just still be that I guess that fly in the ointment to keep questioning and get people to think differently or remember how things work. And again, as I spent the early part of this year, I had a chance to at a conference in Italy. I was in Rome for a while, for over a week, and you can see historic structures right next to brand new buildings, and you don't have to tear down everything. I think there's just being environments where you're talking like centuries, thousands of years, and they still preserve their history. Our city's barely 175 years old, and we're already. If you come here, it'd be tough to take people on a tour of Madison because so much of it has been gone. So I guess
One
we
more.
have one more, yeah.
Yes, one thing I should have asked before, which is a concern of a lot of people. Madison is really unique in its set up geographically, but one of the things that we do not have here that other cities like Springfield, Ohio has, or Springfield, Missouri has, is if a street is closed, you can't go to the next block. We have a real shortage of artillery roadways.
Yep.
And if and you were talking about making streets more safe for pedestrian crossings and bicycles. Is there any talk about a need of alterations to make traffic flow more because we have a high volume of traffic, and since we're talking about great growth, it's only going to increase.
Yeah, and when I say making streets safer to cross, that crossing is the operative word there, because we need these arterial streets, because if we start to narrow them too much, it's just going to drive a lot of traffic into the neighborhoods. And we also do not have a large enough police force in Madison. As the city keeps growing, our police force, traffic safety does not grow with it. So the police can patrol the main arterial streets. We do not have the resources to have them patrolling going into the neighborhood side streets. And again, you see that when we do road construction projects. Suddenly, it's just like water. People will find the fastest route to get from point A to point B. So, but in saying that, I also want to have it's safer to cross these major arterial streets, especially we have a lot of neighborhood schools, and so when the school board made a decision to decide the start and stop times of our middle schools because of lack of bus service. All the middle schools lost their crossing guards, and then again the kids live far enough. If you live certain distance away, you do not have access to get on the bus, and so one of the things that I've have successful conversations with, we'll see if this actually comes to fruition, is we talk about green streets, safer, Vision Zero. I've had good conversations with the Transportation Commission, other city staff, saying that Vision Zero starts at, that ground zero for that starts with our schools, and we radiate that out. That's where the safest space should be, because if parents don't feel safe enough to let their kids walk or bike to school, then they're going to be hopping in their cars and dropping them off. So all this talk about prioritizing pedestrians and getting more people to bike, it has to start within, I'm saying a 1 mile radius of our schools, and all schools in Madison. And I'm getting a lot of traction with that. Now we'll see if our school superintendent, if he's watching this later, they got the referendum passed. They got more money now, and it's about time, I think, for our Madison Metropolitan School District to start helping with some of the cost of crossing guards, because the city of Madison has been shouldering this since 1977, and so they cannot change you cannot change the bus schedules and the school start time without actually applying some money to make it safe for kids to get to school. So I guess we're out of time. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you so much.